This country is famous for its wealth of heritage, from the many buildings that surround us to its extraordinary objects and its exceptional engineering. Most of it we already know and love, but this country is a treasure trove of hidden heritage and it's all waiting to be discovered. In this series, we've been travelling up and down the nation, looking for undiscovered treasures and forgotten places that tell us so much about our rich and astonishing history. And on Britain's Hidden Heritage today, we will be visiting one of the country's greatest historical treasures, a stately home in Scotland that has opened its doors to the public for the very first time. And I'll be meeting a very special guest who helped save the house for the nation.
I'd heard about this house, you see, that there was difficulty with it and that they wanted to sell it. And I know it would have just become a ruin.
Also, Charlie Luxton is reporting on an industrial time capsule in Birmingham.
It's staggering. I mean, having spent 53 years here, I still take my hat off to him. I don't know how he did it.
Claire Balding travels to Essex to learn more about the recent discovery of a very tasty manuscript.
It ceases to be a collection of recipes and becomes a record of cooking in the English country house.
Plus, John Sargent takes to the skies to find an icon of the Cold War that's still in the air after 50 years of service.
You don't expect to be in a small plane like this, flying alongside what was one of the most powerful machines ever built.
This is a journey to the very heart of Britain's hidden heritage. Sitting over the River Lugar in East Ayrshire, this picturesque Georgian bridge gives you an indication that somewhere along this unassuming cart track, you're going to find something simply magical and quite special. But even this chocolate box location cannot prepare you for what you're about to discover, and what can only be described as one of Britain's most remarkable heritage secrets, Dumfries House. Nestling in the southwest corner of Scotland, this is surely one of the most elegant country houses in Britain. Built 250 years ago by the 5th Earl of Dumfries, it spent much of its life frozen in time, untouched and often unlived in. A privately owned and very grand second home. That is until recently, when it came up for sale and became the subject of a frantic bid to keep it for the nation. A bid that was thankfully successful, because what makes this place really unique is the fact that it still has nearly all of its original contents. And when you take a look inside, you realise how important this heritage success story really is. Now, walking into Dumfries House today is quite a strange experience. Unlike many other such country seats that have been remodelled, redecorated and refurnished over the years, very little has taken place here. Now, I've just come in through the side door, the servants' entrance, and if I was to bump into the 5th Earl today, he would notice exactly the same furnishings that he originally purchased for this place back in the 18th century, and it's still where he left it. And so influential was the 5th Earl's taste and wishes that over the centuries, subsequent residents have hardly dared move or replace the contents. Even some of the original carpets are still on the floor. For the last 3 years, Dumfries House and its unrivaled collection of furniture have undergone a major restoration, bringing the place back to the condition it was in when it was first built. Because after 250 years, as a sleeping beauty, it has just started opening its doors to the public. In fact, the whole house has a wonderful feel about it, and for me, well, it feels like I've just personally stepped into an atmospheric photograph that's been immortalised. It's quite incredible. Every day at 7 a.m, with an almost military precision, the housekeeping team set to work keeping Dumfries House spick and span. Now, here's a sound. You don't hear that often. This is a sound of the 18th century. The whole house would have woken up to this sound. But the immaculate condition of the interiors is more than just the result of a daily cleaning routine. How has the house managed to stay in such good condition over the last 250 years?
The house was built for William Crichton Dalrymple, the 5th Earl of Dumfries, a great military man himself, widowed in 1755, and lavishly furnished Dumfries House, plain and simply to lure another lady here to the estate. Sadly, he died in 1768. The house was then later passed on to his nephew, Patrick the 6th Earl of Dumfries, who lived at Dumfries House for a further 35 years.
Yeah.
I have to
But
say.
it really didn't have an awful lot of wear and tear, basically.
Not at all. No, not at all.
Not daily use.
No, in the part of the 19th century, the early part, the house was entrusted to 311 service under the direct charge of a very formidable housekeeper.
Right.
And a fire was to be lit in every room during the winter months, and the windows were opened in every fair day.
Mary, what we're going to do now is we're going to set this table, and first of all we're going to place the pan in the centre, just get it really bang in the middle.
Okay.
That's pretty good, in line with the chandelier, yes?
Okay.
Ever so slightly towards you.
Me?
Just, yes. That's
For much
it.
of its history, the skeleton staff of Dumfries House kept the place in constant readiness for the return of a family. But as it turned out, it was rarely actually lived in, although to this very day the staff have been regimental about the daily maintenance of this 18th century time capsule, going to painstaking efforts to preserve its priceless contents. Well, the whole house is coming to life. The smell of fresh flowers in the reception area. Everybody knows what they have to do, and they do it with pride and passion. Country houses, such as Dumfries, relied heavily on artisans and small industries to keep them running, from the famous furniture makers down to the people who made the candelabra that graced the grand tables. And to discover more of that rich manufacturing past, reporter Charlie Luxton has been to explore our industrial heritage in Birmingham.
I've come to the old cobbled lanes of Birmingham's Jewellery Quarter in search of an incredible piece of our history. In the 19th century, Birmingham was known as the workshop of the world, and these now forgotten back streets were running with gold. With over 20,000 men and women employed in the streets and alleys around here, it must have been a very vital, exciting place to be. Buildings teeming with life, smoke bellowing from chimneys, horses and carts everywhere, the pounding of machinery. Looking around these streets today, you might think that nothing remains of that world. But you'd be quite wrong, because behind this unremarkable Victorian exterior lies a hidden world, suspended in time. And it was into this hectic industrial world that 19th century metalworker Jenkin William Evans arrived. And he had good timing. The jewellery quarter was booming, workshops were springing up all over the place. Kitchen tables were being turned into workbenches, garden sheds into factories, and Jenkin wanted some of the action. He started producing silver plate tableware as fast as his workers could make it. His inventions and tools were passed from father to son until the factory finally closed its doors in 2008. But in truth, it's hard to imagine that it would have looked much different in the 19th century. I've come to meet Jenkin Evans's grandson Tony, who also spent his entire working life in this extraordinary place. So what exactly did you make here?
We made items for a high-quality table. Things like sauce boats, sugar casters, candlesticks, candelabra, things
All of that
which would
posh
adorn
stuff you'd have on a lovely,
Yes, and
lovely dinner service.
The business was in its heyday in Edwardian times.
Is this what I'm seeing, this stuff behind you here?
Yes, we've got a decanter label here. This one is made in copper. This is a copy of one which produced probably around about 1830.
So this is the kind of thing I would see in my grandparents.
You'd have a nice chain around that, hanging around the neck of a cut glass decanter.
Yes.
And if it was silver, of course, you'd have a better hallmark as well.
So why does the factory look the way it does? I mean, why are there just thousands of tools everywhere?
Because my grandfather was producing about one new design a day. Year on year on year.
Was that unusual? Because, I mean, that seems like an incredibly prolific output.
It's staggering. I mean, having spent 53 years here, I still take my hat off to him. I don't know how he did it.
I feel as if I've been transported back in time. I can sense the past and vividly picture the world these people lived in. The factory's made up of adjoining terraced houses that Jenkin Evans bought and converted as the jewellery business expanded. It was in these houses that Jenkin Evans and his family lived as well as worked. Even his children were born here above the shop floor. There's no doubt that Jenkin was an extraordinary man, and it's now my chance to turn the clock back and see his machines come back to life. Barry Abbott's learned his trade here at J.W. Evans. He's agreed to come back for the day and show me how to make a bit of traditional tableware. And so what are we going to make today?
Today we're making wine labels.
OK, so what's the start of that process?
Well, basically we've got to get the blank.
Yep.
This has already been set up. Really.
OK.
So we're going to make some blanks.
Yep.
So we can stamp them.
So this is the first, this is our raw material.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what's this, what is this?
This is nickel silver.
Nickel silver? Yeah. How many of those do we need?
If we do about 3.
OK.
That should be enough.
Barry spent 25 years working as a stamper here at J.W. Evans. The real skill, he says, is setting these great hammers just right, so when they crash into the precious metal, the connection with the carefully carved image on the die is true.
Now I'm just going to make sure the hammer's all right.
And so that's so easy because that belt is being lifted by this wheel.
That's right, yeah.
That feels like it weighs a couple of kilos, but I mean, how much does that weigh?
I would say about 250 kilos.
Really?
Yeah. But from the top to the bottom, when it's the blow, it's about 2 ton.
So that's just had 2 ton of pressure banging onto it. So is this the last stage of the process?
Yeah, this is the last part I would do. This is what we're going to do now. We're going to clip it.
OK.
We're going to take all the scrap away. So what we do, we put it into the tool. And there you are. Well, what we've got to do to it now, it's got to be pierced, then it's got to be polished, then it's got to be plated, and obviously put the chain on, and that's finished.
And then it can go and hang in somebody's front room?
Yeah.
Must take you back to being a young man.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Oliver. Do you mind if I keep that as a souvenir?
No, by all means.
That's very kind.
Yeah, right.
That's really interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Barry represents the past for J.W. Evans, but the future of this extraordinary place is now being conserved with just as much love and attention as he put into the silver work that he made. Because English Heritage are undertaking a restoration project here that's groundbreaking. Restoration expert Alex Carrington has been working here for months. Her aim is to capture the building at the moment the machines fell silent. So when English Heritage open the doors once more, people will get a true picture of what life was really like at J.W. Evans.
There's a certain amount of first aid work required, which in some cases is all the minimum you need to do, and in other places decisions have to be made, how far to go.
What you keep, what you get rid of.
Because you're preserving a moment in time, and it's almost as if somebody has left, they've just put their tools down and gone, you would lose that charm where things live, you disturb the dust, because a lot of the dust and dirt is being kept here. Even the cobwebs are being kept here. So you're preserving all that.
So much of our industrial heritage is gone, and it's easy to understand why. Industry is all about progress, evolving, moving forward. And that is what makes this place so special and unique. It really is the most amazing little time capsule that allows you to travel back 100 years to visit a world that's been lost forever.
Back at Dumfries House, I'm keen to find out more about the structure of this beautifully designed country home. The 5th Earl of Dumfries, who built this house, certainly had his finger on the pulse when it came to fashion. He nabbed young architect Robert Adam and gave him his first big commission. And together with his older brother John, they completed the main build of this place. They oversaw the work and they got it done on time and on budget for the princely sum of £5,847. Now, in today's money, that equates to around about £500,000, which is absolutely astonishing. But just what is it about the Adams style that many still find so captivating? I met up with the head curator of Dumfries House to find out.
This can't escape anyone's notice. This is all about proportion and harmony and symmetry. And in fact, if you look at the plan itself, you could literally draw a line in the middle, fold it over, and the two halves would be completely identical.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. This local stone has weathered so beautifully.
It's amazing.
It's softened, especially in this light with the sun on it. It's remarkable.
Yeah, consider 250 years of Scottish weather, wind and rain. This is facing south, so it gets a good beating.
It gets the sun, it does get a good beating, doesn't it? But I tell you what, it looks absolutely beautiful. I can't believe how tight those joints are.
Yes, it's amazing. These stones would have been polished and polished and polished until they would come up with this perfect, it's absolutely perfect. And in many ways, the whole house is about perfection, the highest standards of craftsmanship and putting it all together. And here it stands 250 years later and still in extremely amazing condition.
Dumfries House itself may look almost exactly as it did when first finished, but restoration work on the estate is a never-ending challenge. Sandstone is an enduring building material, over the centuries used on everything, from city tenement homes to country seats and, of course, bridges. The nearby quarry of Lochabriggs, one of the oldest and largest quarries in Scotland, has been supplying sandstone since the 1700s. As well as using cutting-edge technology, the stonemasons here still do much of the final dressing of the stone by hand. So you can imagine, I couldn't wait to see these experts in action. That's exactly the section of cornice you're going to find back at Dumfries House. How long would that take to cut out?
That there, to do with the traditional methods, you're talking 3 hours.
3 hours?
Yeah, 3 hours work.
OK, yeah. That's 100 years ago.
Yep. Yep.
Chipping away by hand with a small chisel. Today, how long would that take you to do?
Today, I think I could do that in about 40 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
That quick?
Minutes, yeah,
That's
quick.
A beautiful finish you've got on that.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. So symmetrical. These days, stonemasons like Neil speed up the sculpting process by using power tools. And in no time, I can see the section of sandstone beginning to take shape. But what's really reassuring for me is that the specialists here at Lochabriggs are still able to do the same detailed work using traditional methods. Let's put the clock back 250 years.
Okay.
Do it the traditional way.
Hook it up.
Anyway, it's like working with a piece of wood. You follow the grain so it doesn't split along.
Yeah, it's much the same. Yeah, it's much the same.
Is this a skill that's dying out?
Yes, it is, I'm afraid. Well, if you think of the amount of people that work here today, we have 3 stonemasons on site, and there used to be say out of 250 would be stonemasons.
Can I have a little go?
Yeah, of course you can.
I mean, this is very enjoyable to work on. If I was standing here trying to cut some granite, would I be struggling right now?
You'd be here for about 2 weeks.
In the 1750s, hand carving an ornate cornice like this would have taken 3 hours. I wonder how long it would take me. And I guess there's not a lot of wastage either, is there?
No, not particularly, no.
But that's thoroughly satisfying, really, really satisfying. It's not until you start to have a go at cutting a bit of stone yourself that you realise how tricky it really is, making that incredible facade at Dumfries House all the more impressive. Still to come on Britain's Hidden Heritage, I'll be taking a closer look at Dumfries House's unrivalled collection of furniture, including what is thought to be the most valuable bookcase in the world. The Prince of Wales tells us why it was so important to save this house for the nation.
There are so few houses left now which have their original furniture, everything designed for that house.
And John Sargent fulfills a boyhood fantasy as he takes to the skies to get close to a Cold War icon.
When I was a kid dreaming about Vulcans and being a Vulcan pilot, and here we are in this cramped space. It's a childhood dream come true.
But first, Claire Balding is off to Essex to investigate a culinary discovery that takes us back 130 years.
This is Audley End in Essex. It's one of the UK's finest country houses and a monument to Jacobean magnificence. It has over 120,000 visitors a year. But what none of them have ever seen is a piece of hidden social history that's come to light in the most extraordinary way. This breathtaking home has a rich history, stretching right back to the 16th century. During its lifetime, the site has been a monastery and royal residence. But the discovery I'm here to learn about relates to the 1880s, when Audley End was lived in by the 5th Baron Braybrook and his clan. The Braybrooks were an important landowning aristocratic family of the late Victorian era. They were also well-known socialites who loved to entertain. When a historic gem was recently unearthed, shining a light into how this upper-class family wined, dined and socialised, I just had to investigate. But the secret I'm searching for isn't to be found in any of Audley End's stately rooms or in this imposing great hall. It's to be found in the kitchen, the heart of every home. The discovery is a collection of Victorian recipes that were written in the 1880s. The author was one Avis Crocombe, the cook who prepared the finest foods for the family upstairs. Amazingly, she took the trouble to document her culinary creations in this ordinary-looking but utterly remarkable book. But historians at Audley End were unaware of its existence until 3 years ago. So, Annie, how was this book discovered?
We had a phone call from a gentleman called Bob Stride, who is descended from Avis Crocombe's husband's brother. And he rang us up one day, said he had this cookbook. It had Avis Crocombe Audley End written in the front of it, and were we interested? And on further investigation, we realised what it was. And once the screaming in delight had died down, we obviously accepted it with just... It was a mind-boggling moment, actually, when we just thought, how could this happen? This is brilliant. Because we know who used it, we know where it came from, we know where Avis Crocombe was cooking, that makes it really important. It ceases to be a collection of recipes and becomes a record of cooking in the English country house.
This handwritten leather-bound manuscript was brought in 2008, contained within it nearly 150 examples of the dishes created by Avis for the Braybrooks' many banquets. And it's all handwritten, obviously, sort of faded to brown if it ever started off as black.
and written almost like a mini essay. You know, you're used to seeing recipes done with measurements at the top and exactly what one needs for the ingredients, and then a description of how it's done.
Cookbooks at this time didn't usually have ingredients. You'll see at the end there are some recipes in different handwriting, which are probably either sort of interwar or possibly just after the Second World War, and they are much more what we would think of as conventional recipes. So they have the ingredients listed first and then the methodology.
As cook, Avis Crocombe would have been an important person in the running of Audley End. She'd have been responsible for all aspects of running the kitchen, working directly with the Braybrookes when planning the menus.
She is able to do the accounts for the kitchen. She not only knows cooking, she knows preserving, she knows how to run a household. She is somebody who today would be regarded as a ferocious businesswoman.
So the responsibilities for a cook in a large country home in the 19th century included more than simply looking after the food.
Her scullery maid is 17, her oldest kitchen maid is 25, so she's looking after an entire kitchen full of hormonal young women whose only thought, in some cases, is to get married. So she's also having to look after, almost be a sort of dormitory mistress, if you like, for a lot of young girls under her charge who left home when they were 13.
To help me get a taste for the 1880s, Annie's preparing a variety of sumptuous dishes for me to sample, all made following the recipes exactly as laid out in Avis Crocombe's cookbook. Among the delights will be gâteau de pomme, made with nonsuch apples grown on the estate. And according to Avis, these should be stirred without quitting it until it forms a very thick and dry marmalade. We'll also be sampling Windsor sandwiches with ox tongue filling, not so fashionable nowadays, can't think why, and almondine cake, which, going by the recipe, should be filled with apricot jam or whipped cream or fruit, according to taste. Before I'm let loose on her creations, I want to learn more about the eating habits of such a large and affluent household. Lucky for me, a daily account exists detailing every meal eaten at Audley End.
So, Andrew, what have we got here?
What we have here, Claire, is a consumption book from the 1870s, which is just a few years before Avis Crocombe came to Audley End, and it lists all the meat and other produce that was consumed by the family and servants. And if you look here at the first page here, we have on the Sunday beef and mutton, £29.
And they're having two different meats a day, beef and mutton or beef and pork, and then you've got hares, rabbits, pheasants, partridges, turkey, chicken, all the rest, ducks.
You would have had all the main courses, of which there would be several at the same time. So it was very different than the sort of table used to today, where you get brought different courses one after the other. It was a case of everything there at the same time.
Audley End's meticulous records may tell us what produce was eaten here, but it's Avis's cookbook that allows me to discover how that food would have tasted. Annie has finished preparing her banquet of dishes from the recipe book. And joining me is Bob Stride, Avis Crocombe's great-great-grandnephew, and the person responsible for unearthing the cookbook.
Is there any tea, Andrew?
There is. Shall I do the honours?
Yes, I'd love you to. Thank you very much. What we see in front of us now is bang on what was in Avis's cookbook.
Yes, it is amazing, but I've never actually made anything from it.
What else have you learnt about Avis?
I found that she actually married my great-great-uncle in 1884, and they then left the estate and took up a residence in London and started a boarding house. So they left behind this sort of domestic life.
And the other thing that strikes me about the book, Bob, is there's something that may not have made much of you taking it to auction, didn't have any monetary value, but put it here in the place where it should be, create the food that Avis was creating, and you have something that is real history. And this is living history. This is
indeed.
authentic, tangible, you know.
Yes, I agree, yes. And I must admit, we were very overwhelmed by the reception that we had for it right from the start.
I feel as if I've really got to know Avis Crocombe during my time here at Audley End, not because I've looked at photographs or portraits of her or read a diary of her innermost thoughts, but because I have seen and sampled her work. Her recipe book and her food are her hidden heritage. It's her legacy.
Returning to Dumfries House, my tour of what must be one of Britain's greatest heritage secrets continues. Walking around the building, it's impossible not to get swept away by the sheer quantity and quality of the opulent interior decor. These were made by Edinburgh carver William Matthey, a man working at the top of his genre. Incredible detail. Now, what you've got to remember is making a mirror back in the 1750s was an extraordinary task to get the hand-blown glass this size, this flat, and then it had to be hand-ground and polished. One mistake, and that mirror would just crack, and the whole process would have to be repeated. And then you had to get the mirror here by horse and cart over all those potholes from Edinburgh. One very nervous delivery man. I would imagine this mirror would have been wrapped in a bed of hay and boxed securely. Still, I wouldn't like to do it. The Earl of Dumfries, who bought and commissioned the furniture here in the middle of the 18th century, certainly surrounded himself with the very best, including works by perhaps the greatest ever British cabinet maker, Thomas Chippendale. Thought of as the Shakespeare of the furniture world, it's estimated that around 600 authenticated Chippendale works still survive. 50 of them, with their original bills of sale, are here in Dumfries House. Now restored to its former glory, the Chippendale collection here includes what is considered to be his greatest work. This rosewood bookcase, bought in 1759 for £47.05. In 2007, Christie's auctioneers gave this bookcase an estimated value of £4 million. Had it gone up for sale, it's thought it would have trebled that amount, which would make it one of the most valuable pieces of furniture in the world. I met up with the man given the daunting task of conserving this priceless artefact. James, this is fabulous. Is this the most important piece you've ever worked on?
Oh, definitely, yes.
Was it frightening?
It was pretty scary at first. It took me about 2 days to settle down to get into it.
And you had to do it all on site. There's no way you'd want to move that, is there?
If you moved that, I mean, that front door there is a massive piece of oak. If you put that in a different climate, that could have warped and twisted and split. And
it's lovely, isn't it?
It's gorgeous.
Beautiful choice selection of the grains. This lovely Cuban flame mahogany sort of flaring out. Can you pull open a drawer? Can we have a look at some of the sections of dovetails?
This is a brushing slide drawer, as you know. So this is where your clothes would be put to brush them down.
And also wealthy gentlemen love to have furniture that did things. Things came out, you know, full front bureaus and all sorts of things, little secret drawers.
Yep, that's exactly it. I mean, look at the action in that. That is as good as it was made 250 years ago.
Slides perfectly.
Absolutely gorgeous.
And what about the carvings? I know you are a master carver.
Well,
one of the best in the business.
I wouldn't go that far, but
you are. You wouldn't be allowed to work on this otherwise.
Well, that's true, I suppose. There's about 60 patches in the cornice. A lot. Of course, this I won't touch it because you don't want to touch the gold. But this piece of wood here, for instance, it's not thick enough. He's had to glue bits of wood on, and the bits that had been glued on dropped off and got lost. Up in the basket up there, there was an awful lot of leaves that stick out, which had got caught and broken off and disappeared.
Well, I can't tell the difference between your work and...
Well, there's some pretty massive bits of wood in there, I must admit.
When Christie's came to the house to catalogue this piece of furniture, they implied this was possibly the most important piece of furniture they'd ever come across and the world's most expensive.
Well, it's certainly... I mean, look at the size, it's tiny.
Proportions are just right for any house.
Proportions are gorgeous. You could buy that and move it to New York. That could have, right now, been sitting in a New York apartment. They could have spent £10 million buying it. It would be sitting over there. And what a massive cultural loss to Britain that would have been, and to this house, because made for here, belongs here, as everything does.
Now on Britain's Hidden Heritage, former political correspondent John Sargent reveals his personal passion for an iconic aeroplane that dates back to the Cold War.
This is going to be a special day for me. I'm going to fulfill a childhood ambition. When I was a kid, lots of us were keen on spaceships and rockets and flying saucers, but I was crazy about aircraft. And one plane in particular caught the imagination of almost every schoolboy in the country.
And that plane was the Avro Vulcan bomber. This Vulcan, the XH558, is the only one in the world that's still capable of flying. I'm going to be allowed to take to the skies to fly with the Vulcan. I want to relive the excitement and passion I felt about this plane when I was growing up. I'll be helped by a brilliant volunteer team who formed a charitable trust to save the plane and get it back into the air. It's been a labour of love against extraordinary odds.
And it's that passion for the plane which has made it possible to have this version, the only one of its kind in the world, still flying. It's an amazing story. So when you first came across this plane, what condition was it in?
It was nowhere airworthy. There was a lot wrong with it that we needed to work on to get it to the stage where it would receive the approvals to fly.
It took Robert and his team of over 20 skilled engineers more than 2 years to strip this enormous bomber back to its airframe. It had to be rebuilt from the ground up. Around 800 separate components were overhauled.
Thousands of individual tasks turn it back from a museum piece to a flying aircraft.
So what was the secret of the success? How did you
Sheer
manage it?
determination, perseverance, never say die.
Finally, 14 years and £7 million later, Vulcan XH558 once again took to the skies. But there's one part of this plane that hasn't been restored to full working order.
This is the bomb bay. This was designed to carry the British nuclear weapon.
That's where the bomb, the great big nuclear weapon, it sits
Would
here.
have sat, yes, that's right.
Yeah, that's incredible, isn't it?
And there it is, the dark side of the Vulcan. The dream plane built to unleash a nightmare. But what was it like to be the pilot and have that responsibility? I'm meeting John Tye, who was ready to get airborne at a moment's notice and prepare for an attack.
We would get the tannoy message, and the tannoy message would say, "Attention, attention, this is the bomber controller for one group only, readiness state 1-5. That meant we had 15 minutes to get airborne.
And did you know at that point, once the tannoy went, did you know that it was a real alert, or did you think it was an exercise?
We had no idea. So every time that the tannoy went, it could have been for real.
You were in a position not to order an attack, but to take part in an attack which could kill tens of thousands of people.
Yes, it was horrifying, but I used to think that only we would have to do it if we were attacked.
Between 1957 and 1969, the Vulcan bomber and crewmen like John were primed to do their duty and retaliate. Thankfully, the attack never came, and John never dropped the bomb. But he did come face to face with the reality of this terrible responsibility some years later.
My wife and myself were on holiday, and a young girl came to talk to me, and she said, "I noticed you were talking English, and I wanted to practice my English." So I said, "Where are you from?" And she said the name of this town in Russia. It was my primary target, and it rocked me back on my heels. I could not believe that here was a person from my primary target, which I thought was barracks, airfields. I never thought of it as people. And here you've got a beautiful young woman talking to you, and you suddenly realise, all these years later, you've got this lovely person who you might have obliterated. And that really shook me to the core.
In 1969, the RAF handed over responsibility for the nuclear deterrent to the Navy's Polaris submarines. The Vulcan's service life was coming to an end, and in 1993, the last one was sold off. But now the Vulcan's back. I'm keen to get flying, but I can't resist the chance to look inside to see the heart of the beast. This would not have been allowed in the 1950s.
When I was a kid dreaming about Vulcans and being a Vulcan pilot, and here we are in this cramped space. It's just, yes, it's what it should be. It's difficult, it's complicated, it is. It's a childhood dream come true.
Finally, the moment has come. I never thought this would happen.
Parachute on.
I'm going to fly wing to wing with the plane of my dreams.
It's going to be a tremendous trip. And that noise you hear, that's the noise of the Vulcan. It is the Vulcan roar.
In a small plane, up close and personal, I'm going to see aviation history played out in the skies.
We're right over the Vulcan now, and we can see it on the runway.
Blade 5, happy for you to slam as required.
It is about to take off. The Vulcan is starting to move along the runway, picking up speed, and it's taking off. It's going up. What a sight. What a wonderful sight it is. It's already starting to pull away.
Vulcan, you are one noisy bird, but it's very beautiful. Contact Doncaster radar 126.
Oh, that is amazing, and we're right ahead of the Vulcan, and we're seeing it. Oh, that is a wonderful sight. I know it's a cliche, but it is like a great big bird. This is one of the most amazing and most extraordinary aircraft in the world. It's an emotional moment in ordinary life. How would you ever see a plane like this? What a sight. Oh dear, look at that. Oh, that looks terrific. Fabulous patchwork of Britain. One of the greatest planes in the world, which does happen to be, okay, let's be proud of it, happens to be British. And off she goes. Off she goes. Wow, look at that. Now she's showing a real speed. And we can see the Vulcan just roaring away from us, right up into the sky. What an amazing experience that was. You don't expect to be in a small plane like this, flying alongside what was one of the most powerful machines ever built. And it looked so beautiful.
Dumfries House in Ayrshire is a unique time capsule, a home and all its interiors left intact, exactly how it was first imagined in the 1750s. But in 2007, its future hung in the balance. Its then owner, the Marquis of Bute, decided to put his time and money into his other ancestral home and put Dumfries House up for sale. This piece of Britain's hidden heritage was about to be lost until, that is, a very important benefactor stepped in.
Hugely great.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Your Royal Highness, thank you for talking to me today. I know you're a very busy man.
No, don't worry.
Why is Dumfries House so special to you?
But I'd heard about this house, you see, that there was difficulty with it, and that they wanted to sell it and find a solution. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. And I remember trying 4 years before it actually came up for sale as a problem, I tried to find a way of seeing if we could help sort it out or find somebody who might help, a sponsor, a donor, whatever, but it was just such an enormous task.
Prince Charles personally secured a £20 million loan that was still needed towards the £45 million required to purchase the estate, including the house and its contents. It was a race against time with just minutes to spare before the seller's deadline expired. Had the Prince not stepped in, it would have been a very different story.
And the reason why I wanted to do something about it was because the house is so unique with its contents. There are so few houses left now which have their original furniture, everything designed for that house. And of course by the great furniture makers, the Chippendale and the great Edinburgh makers, Peter, Matthew and Brodie. I mean, extraordinary to have that. And still in situ. So I just felt that it would have been a tragedy of immense proportions if the whole thing had just been split up. And we would have been left with an empty shell of a house. And I know it would have just become a ruin.
Unbelievably, in one frantic weekend, Prince Charles was able to finally rally enough support for the project, raising the money needed to save the home from the auctioneer's hammer. But that's not the end of the story. His Royal Highness is now working hard to find ways of sustaining Dumfries House so that it can continue to be a treasure for the nation.
I mean, half the battle is to I think, see if we can use it for more events and all sorts of different occasions of weddings, for instance. Because you can imagine it isn't cheap to run it all.
A regular visitor to Dumfries House, it's obvious the Prince has a genuine passion for this historic home. Do you have a favourite room?
Yes, well, I do rather love. It's that dining room, which is the pink one. The pink dining room, because the plasterwork is remarkable in there, and also I think that it's the quality of the light that comes in through those windows. When I first saw that room, I thought this really is very special.
Well, I think you've done a wonderful job, and that's down to your passion and your commitment. And I feel I've discovered a real treasure from Britain's hidden heritage.
I'm so glad you have.
Thank you so much for talking to me. This country is famous for its wealth of heritage, from the buildings that surround us to its many extraordinary objects and its astonishing engineering. Much of it we already know and love. But this country is a treasure trove full of hidden heritage, and it's all waiting to be discovered. We've been scouring the length and the breadth of the nation, looking for secret treasures and hidden places that unlock our rich and ever surprising history. And today we travel to Northumberland to reveal the surprising and very grand setting that tells the story of the birth of household electricity. This room was the very first room in the world to be lit by Joseph Swan's newly invented filament light bulb. Charlie Luxton spends the night in one of Victorian Britain's most notorious prisons.
It's nearly midnight and I'm in a cold cell.
Claire Balding travels to Yorkshire in search of a relic that was lost 5 centuries ago.
Local legend has it that at least one piece of Gervaux treasure escaped the grasping hands of Henry VIII.
And guest reporter Charlie Borman sets sail from Portsmouth to find a unique piece of British naval history that's been at the bottom of the ocean for 100 years.
Look, and you can see the tower on the top and everything, just below us, literally.
This is a journey to the very heart of Britain's hidden heritage. Situated right in the middle of a 1,000-acre forest that is in itself surrounded by the wild moors of one of Britain's most remotest regions, I think we can confidently say today's host location is one of Britain's most hidden heritage secrets and one of the most stunning. Welcome to the Cragside Estate. If you drive an hour north of Newcastle, heading towards the wild and windy Northumberland moors, you get some idea of the remoteness of Cragside House. It began life almost 150 years ago as a simple two-storey country residence, the modest retreat of the now almost forgotten industrialist, scientist and inventor Sir William Armstrong. In 1863, he bought some land on this impossibly steep-sided valley, had it cleared and built himself the house of his dreams, perched on a ledge of rock overlooking the river running below. The first thing that really hits you about Cragside is the magnitude of the place. It is absolutely vast, and it's obviously been built by a man who didn't worry about the building costs or building regulations, or even the impractical complications of constructing a house on the side of a cliff in the middle of nowhere. It is a magnificent piece of landscaping, a superb piece of engineering, and it's all been made possible by the vision of one brilliant man. William Armstrong was an extremely influential figure of the Victorian industrial age. But unlike some of the more famous engineers and businessmen of the time, like Brunel and Thomas Telford, Armstrong's name isn't as widely known today. But as we will find out, his inventions have profoundly influenced the way we lead our lives, because many of the mod cons we now take for granted in our homes began their lives right here at Cragside. So who exactly was William Armstrong?
He was the son of a corn merchant born in 1810 in Newcastle, a Geordie.
Yeah.
His main passion was engineering and achieved so much from hydraulics, chemicals, electricity, shipbuilding. To the time of his death in 1900, there was over 30,000 workers at the Elswick Works alone.
During the 1870s, when Armstrong's business empire was at its peak, his companies were building hydraulic cranes for dockyards, warships and armaments for governments around the world. And Cragside played its part in Armstrong's success. Used to entertain potential clients, he filled the house with cutting-edge technology, hoping to impress his guests and seal the deals.
They had heating, they had hot and cold running water.
They had all the mod cons, basically, when you look around this house.
Exactly, the house is full of them. You know, it had a lift, mainly put in for the benefit of the staff, to take coal up, you know, to the various floors. Telephone system on the estate, fire alarm system. The owl suite, the royal suite, you know, it had hot and cold running water.
This is incredible. I mean, this is so ahead of its time, isn't it? It really is.
It is.
In 1977, the house was passed to the Treasury in part settlement of death duties from the Armstrong family. It was then transferred to the National Trust, who in 1979 opened Cragside up to the public, and they now look after the day-to-day running of the place. Let's face it, Cragside is in a remote location, but nevertheless it's open to the public, so it's got to be run in a manner befitting such a grand location. Doors open at 1 p.m. every single day, but there's an awful lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, prepping, and that's a big task on such a large estate like this. There's only full-time staff in the house. There's 5 gardeners, there's a forester, but there's also a team of dedicated, enthusiastic volunteers. Now, without them, this place wouldn't be open to the public, and they're having a staff meeting right now. So let's be nosy and have an earwig. Hi everyone, hello. Sorry if I'm just being a bit nosy. I know you're going to open the house any minute now. Have you learned an awful lot about William Armstrong and what he set out to do?
Yes.
I think he was exceptional with the way his servants benefited from his inventions.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
He never gets the appreciation that he should get.
Championing the cause.
Yes.
Well, good on you. Look, I won't keep you because I know you got work to do. You're going to have a bit of lunch before it's 1 o'clock. You haven't got long, have you? While the volunteers work out who's doing what, I have the opportunity to take a good look around the house myself. Every room seems to be chock full of surprises, but not all of them feature on the guided tour, like one rather unique collection that particularly grabbed my attention. Do you know what? This is the most extensive collection of moulds I have come across in my entire life. We've got jelly moulds, biscuit moulds, butter moulds, cake moulds, you name it. Lord Armstrong has got it right here. Walking around the house, you really do appreciate the extent to which Cragside has been preserved. You know, in its heyday, there were around 100 servants here, and I'm actually climbing the ladies' quarter now, where they lived. The higher up you got, the lower down the pecking order you were. So on the top floor were the scullery maids. And of course, over the other side of the building were the men. They kept them apart. Coming up the last flight of stairs now, and you can see how high we are out there. We're above the rooftops. It's astonishing to think it was the servants of Cragside that were treated to some of the best views of the estate. Wow, what a view! Isn't that incredible? And, listen, the sound of water. Water was the driving force behind the triumph of Cragside, and later I'm going to learn how water played a powerful part in Armstrong's inventions. The story of Cragside, William Armstrong and all the staff that lived and worked here are one of many success stories throughout Britain during the 19th century. But there's another side to our Victorian history that's a little bit murkier. Charlie Luxton went to Lincolnshire to uncover some rather dark and disturbing parts of our hidden heritage.
Deep in the heart of this ancient town lies an important part of our heritage that history has tried to forget. Enclosed behind the tall, imposing walls of Lincoln's Norman Castle stands a building that was shut down over 100 years ago, and it's been closed to the public ever since.
It's a sinister remnant of a discredited, barbaric system, but an important reminder of how the Victorians treated criminals. I've come to Lincoln Castle Prison, which is about to have its first inmate for 140 years. Me.
I've been given special permission to spend the night here to try and get some sense of what life must have been like for the inmates it was designed to hold. The Victorians built this jail, an extension of an earlier one, in 1847. They were enthusiastic jailers. This prison was one of over 90 built or extended between the 1840s and 1870s. But Lincoln Castle was more than just another jail. It heralded a whole new approach to the prison system.
This is so special because it was specifically built for a system that at the time they thought was going to reform all prisons, but what actually turned out after a couple of years to be something quite evil called the separate system or the Pentonville system.
So how did that work?
It started off in America with Quakers, Benjamin Rush. They decided that punishment wasn't working. So let's try something different. Let's try reforming. And the way you can reform is by religion, silence, and solitude. And the way they would enforce the fact that you would not meet or see anybody else was you had a hood. A hood with slits for eyes and a little peak, which you would put onto your head before you left your cell. So if you can imagine 2 years of virtually not talking to anybody, it sent a lot of people mad.
This whole system was based on control and fear. Wearing this rough cloth hood is uncomfortable, disorientating, and very scary. And as one of the few times you got to take it off was to watch a prison chaplain in full-on fire and brimstone mode, it's no wonder prisoners went mad. I want my time here to give me as good an insight into the lives of the prisoners as possible, so I need to know more about who these men actually were.
Well, there's lots of people that are held here.
They range from people convicted of stealing a scarf maybe, and they would generally be held here for sort of 3 months at a time. And then we have the very serious cases which can result in execution.
The separate system was undoubtedly cruel, but by implementing it, the Victorians were trying, however badly, to improve the previous, even worse prison system. And it's the story of one Anderson Irving, a young convict that was held here in the 1700s, that really highlights the poor conditions that existed prior to the separate system.
He was arrested for stealing a silver cup, and then he was brought to Lincoln for his trial. After his conviction, he was sentenced to transportation to the colonies. So he was sent out to Australia, where he proved himself an able surgeon. So whilst we don't have records of him in books, we do actually have something slightly better, which is his name carved into one of the stones in the cell that he was held.
Irving's story is extraordinary. Transported to the other side of the world for stealing a cup seems incredibly harsh. But worse is where he appears to have been kept while an inmate here, because deep beneath the Victorian building lies another hidden prison.
So Bob, how many people, come down here to the basement?
Not many. The only people come down are when it needs maintenance or we need to look at things if anything's happened.
Right in there, is it?
Yep.
Okay. It's pretty narrow, isn't it?
It is.
So this would have been a transportation cell?
Yes, yes.
You're joking. I mean, look. You couldn't keep people in. There's no lights. There's no windows. This is ridiculous. I mean, so this would have been packed full of people about to go off to Australia to be on their way to transportation.
Yeah.
So our Dr. Irvine, he'd be down here somewhere, would he?
He will be, yes.
Where is he? Do you know where his name is?
Yes, if you'd like to follow me.
Okay. What, through there?
Yep.
And that's really old stone, that, isn't it?
As we come up to this entrance here...
Well, I'm not getting through there.
Well, I can't. And I'm bigger than you. But as we crouch down, you can actually see the name.
Irving, look at that. So 84.
It is, yes.
So that's 1784.
1784.
I mean, you can see why he ended up being a surgeon. He's got a very good hand.
Oh, aye.
That is absolutely... It's almost incredible that, in this sort of dehumanising system, he just didn't want to get forgotten, did he?
No, he didn't.
Being held here must have been a living hell. The sounds, the smells, the fear must have been overwhelming. I've learnt a lot today, but now it's time for one final insight. It's time for the first inmate for over 100 years to check in for the night. I'm just looking through the governor's journal here from 1852, and there's years of it, and what it really makes you realise is the crushing mundanity of life here, a system designed to break the spirit. And it's funny because when we were talking about coming and spending a night here, it seemed like a really good idea on the phone, but now I'm sat here, it's nearly midnight, and I'm in a cold cell that is really not very comfortable. And I know that when I wake up in the morning, lying here, I'm going to look up at that roof, and the first thing I'm going to see is going to be the first thing that thousands of inmates saw over decades. The separate system was a brief but bizarre moment in Victorian Britain. It lasted for less than 2 years. Lincoln Castle Prison itself was closed in 1887. Ironically, it became a victim of the Victorians' obsession with locking people up. It quite simply ran out of space. And when a newer and larger prison was built nearby, this place became an archive store for the county council. This is dawn, and I can't say that I've had a hugely comfortable night, but I think it's been important that I came and spent some time here and spent the night, because so often we have a tendency to
to celebrate the great and glorious episodes in our history and brush under the carpet the darker and more sinister sides, and that is certainly what Lincoln Castle Prison is. And that's exactly what makes it such an important part of our hidden heritage.
Back in Northumberland, my tour of Cragside has taken me outside onto the 1,700-acre estate. Lord Armstrong came to this valley as a young boy because he was a keen angler. He wanted to fish the water. And it's water that's become the theme that's linked this house with many of his experiments that he's carried out within it. And it's highly likely that he chose this area to build his house, not because of its outstanding natural beauty, but because of its potential for hydroelectric power. Armstrong was fascinated by the potential for harnessing the power of water. And on the top of the crag, way above the house, Armstrong diverted 2 rivers and created a series of 5 stunning lakes. It's only out in the middle of one of these lakes that the monumental scale of Armstrong's vision becomes apparent. He was way ahead of his time, realising the potential water provided for renewable energy. This wasn't here before. He built all of this high above his house, which created a vast head of water with so much pressure it could be collected through a series of pipes that would drive all of his experiments. At a time when the world's manufacturing industries were eating up coal and gas, Armstrong saw fossil fuels as expensive and wasteful, even predicting that coal would run out within 200 years. But how, in 1878, did he turn water into electricity? Cragside's resident engineer, Robin Wright, knows all about Armstrong's technical wonders and his visionary genius. This is great, isn't it?
And,
the moors.
It's a lovely spot, yes. Yeah, right out on the moor he built a dam. The water supply runs into a canal for perhaps about a quarter of a mile, and then into this 2-foot diameter clear pipe, which eventually runs down through onto the estate.
I'm starting to understand the scale of what went on here. By the time the water reached the estate below, it had dropped 140 feet, building up enough pressure to turn a high-tech water wheel or turbine. Robin is going to demonstrate how, for the first time ever, Armstrong turned water pressure into electricity. Well, I've got the hose pipe, you've got the dynamo in your pocket. Let's have a look at that. What is that exactly? A light bulb in there?
Yes, we've got a small LED light bulb with a little gearbox inside, which is driving this little dynamo, which is coils of wire going round
a magnet.
A magnet, yeah,
okay,
and providing the
wire.
electricity. Copper wire, yeah.
Right. Okay. So there's a little nut on there, so you can put that in.
Yeah.
In there.
We'll see if this works and see what happens. We'll try not to get too wet.
Okay. Right. Let's try it, shall we? Here's water from the reservoir. Here we go.
Yes, we've got a bit of light there.
Armstrong's real genius was to combine the ancient technology of the water wheel with the very recent inventions of his friends and fellow inventors. Werner Siemens' electro-dynamo machine, first demonstrated just 10 years before, and the incandescent light bulbs of fellow northeasterner Joseph Swan. Now, when you think about hydroelectric power stations, you're probably imagining huge, great big dams somewhere or massive concrete buildings, not some small, unassuming little building in the middle of the woods here at Cragside. Well, look, this is it. This little cottage is the powerhouse. And this pipe is Journey's End for the water, now running at £150 per square inch. It runs under the floor and then hits the turbine. The wheel is covered, it's cased in metal to stop the water from splashing everywhere, but it drives this shaft. You've got your 2 huge, great big magnets, your coil of copper. That's spinning around at 1,300 revs per minute. Here are the terminals that you can draw the power supply from, the positive and the negative. So this is really what feeds the house up there, the world's first hydroelectric dynamo for domestic use. Our reporters have been touring the British Isles in search of the overlooked, and in her quest for hidden heritage, Claire Balding has been to one of the most beautiful parts of the country to find a long-forgotten ruin that's been neglected for centuries.
Now everyone knows all about the Yorkshire Dales. Big, vast, beautiful landscape, great for walking, for cycling, for riding. But the thing about Yorkshire is the deeper you dig, the more you find. And for history buffs, this place is a treasure trove. There were more battles fought in Yorkshire than any other county in the country. And if you go off the beaten path, and I mean really off it, you will find a place like this. Not just one of Yorkshire's, but one of Britain's hidden gems. Buried in the depths of Uredale, the ruins of Jervaux Abbey tell the story of a vibrant monastic community and of its eventual destruction by one of Britain's most infamous kings. And yet, this important historical site is very much off the tourist trail. The nearby abbeys of Byland and Rievaulx are much better known than Jervaux, and this one feels a bit like going into somebody's private garden, and it is privately owned. That doesn't mean it's not open to the public, it is all year round, but you'll never find a massive crowd here because it's so hard to find, and I haven't been here before, but there it is. That is magical. The monastery at Jervaux was founded in 1156. During the following 400 years, not only did the abbey develop into an important centre of religious devotion, but the Cistercian monks also established a thriving trading community, farming the land, breeding horses, and producing Wensleydale cheese. So, Glyn, what would life have been like here in the 12th century?
Well, there are 60 or 70 monks, and they're supported by perhaps 3 times as many lay brothers. It's a self-supporting organisation. It has a huge estate. It feeds itself. It's self-sufficient. Everything they eat, drink, and wear is made here.
But in 1534, the fortunes of the abbey changed dramatically. Henry VIII passed the Act of Supremacy, making himself head of the Church of England, and ultimately bringing about the dissolution of many religious houses, including Jervaux. Within 4 years, the abbey had been demolished. Its land became the property of the Crown, and much of its treasure seized, sold, or smashed. Before its destruction, Jervaux and its ecclesiastical treasures were valued at the equivalent of nearly £1.5 million in today's money. Afterwards, all that remained were the building's crumbling walls and broken pillars. And here it stood for nearly 500 years, with the Yorkshire weather and Mother Nature taking on what the wreckers left behind. Until, that is, the current owners acquired it as part of a farm in the 1970s and have been lovingly caring for it ever since. I really do love the feel of this place. I love the fact that you can climb all over it, that nowhere's out of bounds, that it's deliberately rough around the edges. But it is very hard to imagine the full scale, the grandeur, the colour of it in its heyday. All of that seems to have been lost. Or has it been? Because local legend has it that at least one piece of Jervaux treasure escaped the grasping hands of Henry VIII. It's believed that one of the churches in the area surrounding Jervaux contains an artefact from the abbey, so I'm off to St Andrew's Church in Aysgarth. Legend has it that this ornately carved, brightly coloured relic was salvaged from the abbey during its destruction. It's said that 20 men heaved this huge oak screen the 10 miles from Jervaux to the church. But is the story true?
Well, it's a magnificent piece of woodwork and carpentry, but how do we know whether this came from Jervaux?
Well, there are a couple of ways of actually working it out. First of all, just looking at the screen itself, it has right in the middle, up the top here, the initials either HM or HW. And we know that they occur on another piece of furniture from Jervaux, from a stall end. That's a pretty good way of guessing.
But Glyn's come to Aysgarth today, armed with measurements taken from the abbey. As all Cistercian abbeys were built to a similar design, he's pretty certain that he knows where the screen would once have stood, as its stone plinth is still in place at Jervaux. He has a hunch that, if proven correct, could finally solve the origin of this mysterious artefact.
The gap in the plinth at Jervaux is 70 inches. When we measure it here, I think we'll find that it's pretty close to 70 inches.
OK.
And in fact, it's 73 inches exactly.
The width of the door is 3 inches wider than the gap at the abbey, allowing for the stone plinth to have a 1.5-inch step on each side of the door. That's a very good match.
The door is the one thing you can't really alter. We can actually fit this door to the existing foundations at Jervaux. This has to come from a monastic church somewhere, and Jervaux is the nearest.
Hundreds of thousands of tourists come to the villages around this part of Yorkshire through the summer holidays, but hardly any of them will have discovered Jervaux Abbey, and even fewer will know about the painted screen here in this church. But it all goes to show, as I said earlier, the deeper you dig, the more you will discover about Britain's hidden heritage.
At Cragside, I'm continuing my quest to discover more about Lord Armstrong's inventions. The place is filled with gadgets that we nowadays take for granted. Electric bells, an in-house telephone system, and a lift. But in the 19th century, these things were revolutionary. Now, we've seen how William Armstrong created his own electricity before it was in common use. But what did he use it for in the house? Well, I can tell you, because I'm standing here. This room was the very first room in the world to be lit by Joseph Swan's newly invented filament light bulb. What an amazing piece of history. Sir Joseph Swan was a physicist and chemist who, like Armstrong, came from the northeast of England. In 1878, Swan invented the incandescent light bulb. It wasn't long before news of the breakthrough reached Armstrong, and he had Swan install this technology at Cragside. And here is one of the original lamp bases. There are 4 of them all together in the room. The lamp base itself is made of copper, but it's been beautifully decorated with enamel. Lovely colours, still vibrant. It's known as cloisonné work, but it's the copper that helps conduct the current. This worked by virtue of sitting in its own tray of mercury, which also conducted the current, but there was no such thing as a light switch. You couldn't turn it on or off. It was constantly on. No one had thought about this because it was in its infancy stage. So in order to turn it off, you had to take it out of its bed of mercury, like that, and then put it back in to turn it on. But I have to say, back then, people watching this would be in awe of it. They would be totally amazed. It would be like seeing a magic show. This whole room just perfectly lit. And it's no wonder this house was once described as the palace of the modern magician. In fact, Armstrong harnessed water power as a means of driving numerous other imaginative gadgets dotted throughout the house. What a lovely, big, airy kitchen. Just look at the size of this. So, is this the first dishwasher in the world?
Well, it's a very early form of dishwasher.
How does it work?
It's just pressure of water
and you closed the doors so it was all contained, and you had these jets of water hitting the dishes.
He went to a lot of expense then to get the water from the lakes or the reservoirs to this house.
He did indeed, and that's what makes the whole house work, though, the power of water.
Cragside's reputation spread rapidly throughout Victorian Britain. News of Armstrong's household innovations eventually reached the future king, who invited himself around. Later, I'll find out more about the royal visit to Cragside.
Each week on Britain's Hidden Heritage, we're sending out a famous face to talk about their own heritage passion. And today, Charlie Borman sets off to find out about a submarine that's been on the seabed for the last 100 years.
I've journeyed to the south coast of England, to the historic naval town of Gosport. I've come here to learn about the discovery of a shipwreck, a crucial piece of maritime heritage that casts new light on the early beginnings of the Royal Navy submarine service.
And that's where my search is going to take me today, back to the very beginning of the 20th century and the very first all-British Navy submarine. The only problem is that it's not here in dry dock. It's out there under the sea where it's been lying in obscurity for about 100 years.
As someone who is nuts about technology, this journey of discovery is an incredible opportunity for me. My guide is Martin Davis, who is in charge of monitoring and protecting the site. We're motoring to a point just off the coast of Brecklesham Bay, where 10 meters below the surface lies the boat's remains. It's a thrilling ride out. As we close in on the wreck, I'm getting even more eager to find out what it was they uncovered.
It's so exciting.
As we get nearer, Martin uses his onboard sonar to help us pinpoint the wreck.
So we'll be able to sit on here in a few minutes?
We certainly will, if we just go very slowly now.
Okay.
Carefully go round it. We should just see the wreck rise from the seabed.
Yeah. Okay.
We get a good view of it. There she comes.
Oh, there she comes. Oh, yeah.
There's a little hint of it there.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. There it is. And it's just sitting there on the bed of the sea, just below us, literally.
What I'm seeing today is exactly what a fisherman saw in 1987, when the mysterious structure showed up on his sonar. He didn't know it at the time, but what the fisherman was looking at was the tower of a submarine.
Wow, what an experience to come across it, to be the first to see it.
It was, however, obvious to him he'd stumbled across a large wreck, but it took a local dive team to establish just what had been unearthed.
We come out the following day to see what the obstruction was, not knowing what it was.
Yeah.
Zero vis dive, couldn't see hardly anything at all. Bumped into what turned out to be a compass, just there on the bottom.
The discovery of a compass was a tantalizing find. But visibility in British waters can be poor. And the team had to make numerous trips before they could work out what had been found.
Come back the following week, the viz had gone from 0 to 3 metres. We realised it was a very early type submarine.
The team had a hunch the submarine dated back to the very beginnings of the Royal Navy submarine service. By the start of the 20th century, countries like France, Japan, and the US had begun to realise the potential submarines had for military use, and the British were keen not to be left behind. So, in 1900, under a veil of secrecy, Vickers, Sons and Maxim at the Borough-in-Furness shipyard set about developing their very own submarine, codename the A01. And incredibly, it's this very submarine Gordon and the divers had discovered.
Been diving quite a few years, you know, finding absolutely nothing really.
Yeah.
And then coming across this, yeah, absolutely amazing.
Astonishingly, the A01 had been lying on the seabed for 100 years, half buried in a sandbank just outside the mouth of the busy Chichester harbour, 5 miles from where she was reported to have sunk. The experimental submarine, seen here on the day of her maiden voyage, proved to have a remarkable performance when put through her paces. With her crew of 11, the A01 had a top speed of 8 knots, was over 30 meters long, could travel 25 miles underwater, was armed with a single firing torpedo tube, and one of the first practical modern periscopes. Conditions may have been cramped and basic for the sailors, but at the time she was still one of the most advanced submarines anywhere in the world. Since her discovery, the A01 has been the subject of numerous archaeological dives, and the vessel has given up some extraordinary finds.
Oh my God, they're unbelievably in perfect condition.
Yeah, perfect.
Aren't they?
Yeah,
God, they're beautiful.
Out of all the binoculars that have been found by not only myself but Gordon and the others, over the years, many pairs of binoculars, but the first that have actually been restored back to working condition, they're incredible.
But they do work, don't they? You can see.
Yeah. The quality of the brass is fantastic.
Oh, that is incredible. Ross of London, they're from.
Yeah. They were hanging in their case down in the conning tower. When I reached in to just lift them out on the strap came off the case, and they tumbled back down into the submarine.
Oh my gosh, so they were...
They laid inside on the floor for about 2 years.
A wealth of remarkably well-preserved artifacts have been salvaged from the A01 and restored back to their former glory. However, there is still one piece of the A01 story that is missing. How she ended up in her final resting place and what happened to the crew. To uncover the truth, my search has brought me to the vault of the Royal Navy Submarine Museum, where thousands of blueprints, photographs and declassified military documents are held, and that stretch right back to the very beginnings of the submarine service.
The thought of being, in a metal contraption under the sea, I mean, it took a lot of nerve, didn't it?
Yeah, I say to people that it's almost like to us going up in the space shuttle, but I suppose they just sort of took it. It's everyday part of life for these guys. It's just the norm.
But in March 1904, events took a tragic turn for the A01 and her pioneering crew. The submarine, captained by Lieutenant Mansberg, sailed to the Solent, ready to take part in the first full Royal Navy training exercise to involve a submarine.
Mansberg, the captain, was attacking a surface vessel. It was the last day of the manoeuvres, and he was keen to press home his attack. A fast liner, the Berwick Castle, comes steaming through the exercise areas.
A civilian?
Yes, civilian liner. She doesn't see the periscope. The captain of the submarine is so intent on his attack that he doesn't see the liner bearing down on his submarine. So there's a collision, and the submarine immediately fills with water because there's no partitions. And as soon as the damage occurred, the crew would have been stunned, unable to do anything, and all 11 of the crew were killed.
The brave men that lost their lives in the A01 tragedy became the first fatal casualties of the Royal Navy Submarine Service.
These are the names of the crew, the people who actually were killed in the accident.
Oh, that's kind of sad to see that, really.
Mm.
Oh, they were so young as well, weren't they?
The sinking of HMS A01 certainly serves as a stark reminder of the risks taken by these heroic pioneers. The damaged A01 was repaired and re-entered into service, but in 1911 she sank again, this time during an unmanned exercise. But now it would be nearly another 80 years before she was ever seen again. However, it has left behind a legacy, It's because of the A01 that all submarines were subsequently fitted with double-hatched conning towers, increasing the chances of survival for crews. In fact, many of the safety features and designs of modern submarines can all be traced back to this iconic boat and its heroic crew. But what does the future hold?
The A01 submarine is part of our heritage, whether it's out there in the bottom of the ocean or in a museum. But for me, it's a little bit too hidden. The people who built the A01 were ingenious, brave, and they were pioneering. And the fruits of their labor shouldn't be allowed to rot away at the bottom of the sea.
With my visit to Cragside Estate nearly over, there's just one final surprise left in store. This house was so advanced for its time, it became so well known amongst the upper echelons of society that it was only a matter of time before it had a visit from the Prince of Wales, later to become King Edward VII, a man known for his passion of all things modern. And by all accounts, he was absolutely fascinated to visit the palace of the modern magician. And he gave William Armstrong enough notice of his impending visit. Enough time, in fact, for Armstrong to extend Cragside once again. Ooh, this is nice, isn't it? It's cosy, yet it's not over the top.
It is. This is where the royal family stayed when they visited in 1884.
How many nights did they stay for?
They stayed for 3 nights in these set of suites in 3 rooms. They came because these suites had hot and cold running water, were centrally heated, were way ahead of their time from what they were used to at Buckingham Palace, so it was a novelty for them.
The mod cons.
It did.
They must have been impressed, mustn't they?
But for once, it wasn't Armstrong's futuristic technologies that are the biggest talking points of the royal apartments. Perhaps the most impressive feature is to be found in the new drawing room, and it's this colossal chimney piece.
Get into this room and all of a sudden it smacks of classical Renaissance because of that.
It does, but you have to remember that this room was the wow factor for the royal visit that Lord Armstrong had.
Yeah, but you know what? It dominates the room. I think it commands the room too much. You walk in here and you see this wonderful cove ceiling, you know, with this heavy reliefed plasterwork, and then you see this curved fan light, which is absolutely stunning. And then your eyes drop down, you go, wow. I mean, is that Italian? It's all marble. It's Renaissance in style.
It's all it's 10 tons of marble.
10 tons
Italian
of marble.
It was shipped in pieces to London, carved in London, and then came up in pieces by boat to a local port, came by horse and cart and was put together here.
Wow.
All to impress the royal visitors.
Yeah. You could stand 30-odd people in that fireplace.
You could.
Of course, it's ironic that this decorative fireplace could be the focus of a home that was such a talking point for its revolutionary central heating system. But it does serve to remind us that Cragside was more than just a laboratory for Armstrong to try out his numerous innovations. It was the home of a man with an appreciation for beautiful form as well as technological function. Armstrong died in 1900 at the age of 90. He had no children, and his wealth and estate passed to his great-nephew. The technological innovations that Cragside represented for so many years at last had come to an end.
What I've discovered today is the extraordinary legacy of one of Britain's most underrated inventors. William Armstrong truly was a visionary, seeing water as opposed to gas or coal as a clean source of power and energy. and always trying to lighten the load for the workman with his inventions. That's why it's so fitting that Cragside should be preserved and restored for future generations to appreciate. But more than anything, it should stand as a lasting monument to the man who created it, Lord William Armstrong. This country has an extraordinary and captivating history, and wherever you are in the British Isles, you're never too far away from somewhere that's going to remind you of this remarkable legacy. Now, much of it we already know. It's celebrated and loved, but there's still an awful lot more out there, and it's all waiting to be discovered.
And today on Britain's Hidden Heritage, I'll be going behind the scenes at one of Britain's most extraordinary and least known about stately homes. A treasure house that has sat virtually untouched for over 150 years.
Now, this room is real history.
Claire Balding travels to Yorkshire to uncover the inspiration behind one of the world's most loved romantic novels.
To think that Charlotte Bronte came here and that from that her imagination took off. It's so exciting.
And Charlie Luxton reports on a crumbling watermill in Derbyshire that tells us about a forgotten side of the Industrial Revolution.
It's a massive, massive, massive timber wheel here.
This is a journey to the very heart of Britain's hidden heritage. Nestled in the Northamptonshire countryside lies an exceptional architectural delight, and at first sight it's distinctly un-British. Just walking through these impressive grounds, you could be forgiven for thinking we've been transported back in time to 17th century France. And if you're impressed by the exterior of this French fancy, then just wait until I show you some of the hidden treasures inside. Welcome to a magnificent Boughton House.
Hidden in the middle of an 11,000-acre Northamptonshire estate, Boughton House must be one of Britain's greatest stately homes. And it's full of wonderful treasures from the 17th and 18th centuries. As you enter the house, you are greeted by paintings by the great masters, furniture of outstanding taste and quality, and extraordinary diverse collections await around every corner. Yet in spite of its obvious cultural importance, it has remained, for the most part, in obscurity. The house has been the home of the Montague family and their descendants for almost 500 years. But it was under the ownership of Ralph, 1st Duke of Montague, that the house we see today took its present form. Ralph Montague was a passionate builder, patron of the arts and, most tellingly, ambassador to Louis XIV, the French king, who created the Palace of Versailles. An obvious inspiration for the continental exterior of Boughton, though the house itself is much more than just an architectural copy.
In fact, Boughton is a bit of an oddity because when you enter the house for the very first time, you're struck by a series of juxtapositions. On the outside, it's most certainly French, but on the inside, with its heavy oak panelling and its wide, unassuming, understated doorways and little inner courtyards, it's most certainly English. Yet the whole place is laid out like a grand palace, but it has the intimate feel of a private home, and that's because the current Duke of Buccleuch and his family still live here. But the overriding feeling you get when you're walking around this magnificent house is the fact that you are literally stuck in time, some 300 years ago. Just walking around, you notice that the fabrics, the condition of the furniture, the artwork, the gilding, everything is in such good condition. How did it escape all the wear and tear of use?
Well, one of the things, if you come to Boughton, you'll see is we always keep the light levels down as much as possible.
Yeah.
The house has a very interesting history. It starts off very much the creation of the first Duke of Montagu. And he comes back from being ambassador to Louis XIV in France and embellishes his house with wonderful French architecture, art. His son, however, was not as much interested in the house itself. His view was more the landscape, so he concentrated there. But then the house really wasn't used between about 1760 and 1920, so everything remained in the pristine condition that it is today.
Gosh. It's cocooned in time, really, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
From the surviving accounts, we know that building work was constant, the buying of artworks prolific, and the entertaining incessant. But in the 1760s, it all fell silent. The family had no sons, and the heiress daughter had married the Duke of Buccleuch and moved to Scotland. Boughton was no longer required, and for over 150 years was sealed up, tended only by a loyal staff of housekeepers. Slowly, at the beginning of the 20th century, the house began once more to be used by the family, and as they did so, the gentle process of restoration began, bringing the place back to the splendour we see today. But always Boughton is a house that is never far from its 300-year-old roots and the first Dukes of Montagu who created it and filled it with beautiful things.
This place is a real treasure house. It reads like a who's who of the greatest furniture makers and designers and painters of the 17th and 18th centuries. Now, I'm standing right here in the middle of the drawing room. Can you imagine owning one oil painting by the Baroque painter Anthony van Dyck? Well, you'd feel pretty chuffed with yourself, wouldn't you? But can you imagine owning 40 of them and having them all displayed in one room? Well, that's what I'm surrounded by right now. The great master's work, Anthony van Dyck. Absolutely incredible. Ralph Montagu bought all of these for just £3 each in 1682. And if you look really closely at them, you can see they're studies. They're intended for something else. They're all monochromatic. These were intended to be sent off to an engraver who would cut these onto a sheet of copper. So there was no need for all the colour or the busyness. He just wanted the outline, the bit of detail. And up there, there's King Charles I. Now, he was responsible for bringing Van Dyck to England. He was a great fan of his work. He made him the court painter, knighted him in 1632, gave him a pension of £200 a year. That's how highly regarded he was. Now, this room is real history.
One of the many extraordinary advantages of this house being virtually sealed up for 150 years is that very little was ever thrown away. And the Montagus and their successors, the Dukes of Buccleuch, were scrupulous at keeping paperwork and records of just about everything. Boxload after boxload of letters and documents have been kept in storage, leaving us an invaluable archive of daily life in the 1700s.
There's a lot of material here, and this is just a very small part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, this is just my workroom where I bring the papers and the archives up to look at and to scope and see what's in them.
Scope, I like that word. Scoping.
Scoping, yes.
You are the social history detective, really, aren't you, in a way?
Well, he's the keeper of the family records, and to see what's there and see what we can determine from it.
Gareth's studies really reveal what life would have been like throughout the years at Boughton, including some surprising revelations about one unusual resident.
The second Duke, Duke John, who was known as John the Planter, had a reputation of being very kind to animals. And there's always been a story in the house that he had a lion, a pet lion, that was regarded... we never believed it, we all thought it was a myth and legend. And the myth was even worse than that. It was a toothless lion, it was lost all its teeth. We know that John was the keeper of the ordnance and hence responsible for the Tower of London at this period, where there was the menagerie, the Royal Menagerie. So, again, the myth and legend was that he brought one of the old lions to stay at the house here. And what we have here is, this is again 1745, lion must never be locked up at all, but to go where he will, except into the garden, where he must not go for fear he should be drowned.
Wow, he really did exist.
Yeah, he must be free of the old pantry, to be fed there, to have boiled meat, no horse flesh, nor bones given him, which again intimates he probably was toothless.
Yes.
To lie every night in his house in the old pantry, and to have his trough filled every morning with fresh water.
Wow.
And to have
Can you imagine a lion roaming around the ground?
I mean, in 1745, you know, lions of Longleat, we were there first.
The owners of Boughton might have been scrupulous about recording its history, but with other old country houses, it's not always the same story. Claire Balding has been to Yorkshire to unearth clues about the inspiration behind one of Britain's greatest Gothic novels.
This is one of my favourite novels, Jane Eyre by Charlotte Brontë. I first read it as a teenager, and there's something about this book that stays with you forever. It's been translated into 43 different languages. It's sold millions of copies all over the world. It's particularly popular in Japan and in China. There has always, though, been a certain mystery about the basis for the characters and the emotive settings in the book. But we're going to try and uncover some of that mystery, because I've come today to a country house in North Yorkshire that has secrets behind hidden panels.
Much of the action in Bronte's Jane Eyre takes place at the fictitious Thornfield Hall, home to Jane's love interest, Edward Rochester. Employed as governess at Thornfield, Jane also meets Rochester's deranged wife, hidden away in a locked attic.
But where would Charlotte Brontë have found the inspiration for the violent and insane wife of Mr. Rochester locked in the attic? Could it be possible that that place and that person were based on reality? Could Thornfield Hall have been based on this house?
This Gothic mansion is Norton Conyers Hall, the ancestral home of the Graham family. Built in the 17th century on top of an existing medieval hall, the gardens are a popular local attraction. What the visiting public probably don't know is that the Graham family legend has it that this place was the inspiration for Thornfield Hall as described in Jane Eyre. It's well documented that in the summer of 1839, Charlotte Brontë lived not far away in Lothersdale, employed as governess to 2 young children of the wealthy Sidgwick family. And the Grahams believe that during her time in the area, Charlotte visited Norton Conyers.
We think it was probably a family day trip, and the children would have come as well, which is why she came to look after the children.
And what do you think she would have made of it?
I think she would have been enchanted by the ancient atmosphere, and she would have found inspiration here because there's a tremendous atmosphere.
In the Victorian era, it would have been common for well-to-do families to pay informal, unannounced trips to neighbouring country estates.
It was very popular at that time, if you had a carriage and were dressed respectably, to come and visit houses such as Norton Conyers.
We're not talking about an invitation from the owner of the house to say, oh, come round and have a look. They would just have turned up?
Yes, especially because the 7th Baronet, who owned
My great-great-grandfather,
who owned the house at the time, was very often away, and so the servants would be in charge of the house, and it would have been a very nice break in their day to be able to show a visitor around.
So we know that Charlotte Brontë worked for a time nearby, and we know that well-to-do families like her employers would have made regular house calls to other local country homes. But could there be any truth to the Grahams' claim?
Well, I am officially intrigued, but like any good investigative reporter, I need more clues to prove that this could have been the inspiration for Thornfield Hall. So we have to go to the text itself. And here, the passage on Jane Eyre's first approach. We now slowly ascended a drive and came upon the long front of a house. Candlelight gleamed from one curtained bow window. All the rest were dark. Could be here, but we need more. We need more from the text, we need more about the house, and we need more about Charlotte Bronte herself.
Inside, and it becomes clear that there are many passages in Jane Eyre that seem to describe Norton Conyers. For example, the steps and banisters were of oak. The staircase was high and latticed. Both it and the long gallery into which the bedroom doors opened looked as if they belonged to a church rather than a house.
Now, it's easy to imagine this place being Thornfield Hall when you read those passages from Jane Eyre, but we're after concrete evidence, and we've got some.
Now, Norton Conyers isn't the only house claimed to be the inspiration for Thornfield. There is a theory that a house called the Ridings, home to Bronte's lifelong friend Ellen Nussey, could also be a contender. But someone who certainly didn't subscribe to that theory was James Graham's great-grandfather, Reginald.
There is this letter here, which is written by Reginald Graham, 1888, to Erskine Stewart, who was a Bronte scholar who was very interested in for his book. And Erskine Stewart sent Graham a photograph of the Ridings, and he says, I observe the picture represents the Ridings as of 2 stories only, whereas the book describes Thornfield as being distinctly of 3 stories. In my mind, there's strong evidence that Norton Conyers was far more likely to be the scene for Jane Eyre than the Ridings.
There was a fair amount of competition, wasn't there? Still is, between various country houses saying, you know, that we claim we're the basis for Thornfield Hall.
Yes, and that's what this is all about. They're saying there are more reasons why Norton Conyers is Thornfield than any other house.
The 3rd floor of Thornfield is an important aspect of Jane Eyre. In the book, it was here in the attic that Mr. Rochester kept his insane wife locked up. The fact that Norton Conyers also has 3 levels is a crucial piece of evidence. And in 2004, a startling discovery was made that further supports the Grahams' claims.
A good run of apparently solid panelling from the Edwardian period, and there's a new door put in to give access to a staircase which was previously unknown. There were once good service stairs, but then in alterations they're not needed and they're panelled over.
This previously hidden staircase is similar to one referred to in Jane Eyre as a route used by Rochester to visit his wife on the 3rd floor.
This is extraordinary.
Here's the corridor linking all the servants' bedrooms. So this would only be really occupied from last thing at night until first thing in the morning.
Although this floor bears a striking resemblance to that portrayed in Jane Eyre, one room in particular shares a dark secret incredibly similar to the attic of Thornfield. It's well documented in the Graham archives that in the 18th century, well before Charlotte Bronte would have visited, a mysterious woman was kept locked up in this tiny room at the far end of the attics of Norton Conyers.
She was known as Mad Mary. We don't know who she was. We don't know if she was a servant or whether she was a member of the family. A mental illness was not well understood at that time. Anybody who was considered mad was hidden from view and forgotten about.
Family legend has it that Mad Mary was kept under lock and key, secreted away in the tiny attic room. And the Grahams believed that this was the inspiration for the character of Mr. Rochester's deranged wife.
So this room and the woman who was kept in this room was the inspiration for one of the greatest Gothic romance novels ever written.
That's right. It's somewhere where that person can be kept quiet and serviced by the appropriate servants.
It makes me feel terribly sad being in here because it feels so much like a cell. I mean, it's very small, and compared to some of the other rooms in the house, it's tiny. And you've just got one little glimpse of an outside world that you would never be allowed into. We'll never know for sure if Bronte came here or based elements of Jane Eyre on what she saw and heard. But one thing's for certain, all Bronte fans, like myself, feel drawn to try and understand this most captivating of romantic novels. And maybe it's a limitation in us that we're seeking to find the proof, the real thing. What was it based on?
Obviously, a novel is a work of the imagination, and this is an amalgamation of various houses that Charlotte knew. I think we really shouldn't be trying to pin it down, but I think it's there's definitely a sense of Thornfield in this house. I think you just have to come here and see it, and you feel that.
At Boughton House, my tour of this incredible sleeping beauty has taken me outside to the magnificent gardens, where a huge amount of work is taking place. The 150 years of neglect in the 18th and 19th centuries has meant that much of the original gardens has disappeared or grown over. Originally, there would have been avenues of lime trees, formal gardens and a unique set of waterways. The current Duke, Richard, has plans to restore much of the garden to its former glory, in particular the water features which would have once been integral to the landscaping of the house. I met up with the Duke and his landscape manager to find out how the restoration is going so far.
What are we looking at here?
Well, we're looking at a bird's eye view by possibly a famous landscape gardener called Bridgman in about 1725, 1726, and you can see the immense scale of the Broughton landscape at that time, dominated really by this water structure, a large lake in front of the west front of the house. And its great value for the house was that a visitor arriving from this side would see this magnificent, very French-style north front reflected in the water. It would have been very, very beautiful. In essence, we are peeling away the layers that have accumulated over the centuries without there being water in here. I reckon that if you come back in 3 or maybe 4 years' time, this may be transformed.
Restoring the stunning system of canals around the house is a labour of love for Duke Richard. Work on the north front has yet to start, but to the west of the house, Phase 1 has been completed and gives a wonderful feel of what it would have once been like here.
You see how important water was to the enjoyment of the house.
You can.
A lake like this would have been much used. I suspect there would have been fish in it, would have been a larder for the house.
And the future?
I think the future is an exciting one. I think that this recovery of the landscape is really terribly important for the next generation. It's not something to be afraid of, but something to be enjoyed.
The restoration of the gardens and the wider estate is a 30-year project. But of course, with a house as old as Boughton, it's not just the gardens that are in need of maintenance. The house itself is under constant review, understandably, with so many treasures, all of which have a story.
There are some fabulous antiques and artefacts here in this house. And the lovely thing about it is, the things that are meant to have wear do have wear. They have been used, like the seat cushions. But other things are still in perfect condition. No damage at all, like this fabulous pair of Meissen swans made by the Meissen factory in 1750, commissioned for Madame de Pompadour, who was the mistress of Louis XV. And mistresses were considered quite important at the time. You had to listen to them, more important than the wife. The base is made up of spelter. It's a mixed metal fused together, but I like this naturalistic bulrush around it. This wonderful scroll work, it makes the swan sort of feel more important. It's almost as if it's on a crown rather than a nest of reeds. Now, the interesting story about the history of this is, while the French aristocracy were losing their heads on the guillotine during the time of the French Revolution, they were also losing their houses, all of their treasures and items of furniture. And the English aristocracy were sending agents over there to buy it up on the cheap and bring it back over here, including the Duke of Buccleuch.
The astonishing collection of antiques and furniture in the house is wide-ranging, from the surprising and sometimes unusual pieces like these flame-stitched sofas and chairs dating to the William and Mary period to the Boughton State bed. This great bed has had over 6,000 man-hours spent conserving it to its current condition, ostrich feathers and all. It reminds us of just how flamboyant these rooms would have been in their heyday in the 17th and 18th centuries. However, there's one collection of furniture that has really caught my eye, and it's the work by 18th century French cabinet maker André Charles Boulle. His work is distinctive with its intricate brass fretwork inlaid with wood, tortoiseshell, pewter or mother of pearl. I met up once more with Gareth, who was keen to show me Boughton's prize piece and perhaps one of the greatest examples of Boulle work.
Gosh, that is one of the best examples I think I've ever seen.
It is magnificent, isn't it?
This is all tortoiseshell, isn't it?
It's all tortoiseshell with the blue and the red as well, with inlaid brass. Because, as you know, the problem with Boulle, that you have the different media, the tortoiseshell and the brass in this case, and of course the heat and the glue even that they use shrinks at different rates. Yeah. And as the small pieces ping out, as they expand and contract, then of course just simple dusting or people walking past can fall them to bend. It's a very unusual piece. Got to. And of course this is what is not regularly seen, not only by visiting public, but as a piece of furniture you wouldn't normally leave it open.
Do you know, I can't see anything wrong with it. I couldn't tell you what's been restored and what hasn't. It's that good, isn't it?
Repairs are currently taking place on another piece of Boulle work from Boughton. It's being carried out by Yannick Chastongue, one of the very few craftsmen in the world who are able to still do this kind of intricate fretwork. To restore marquetry like the work of Boulle requires a steady hand and a very sharp fret saw. Sandwiching the thin metal between two slices of plywood to prevent the metal from bending. And working in the most minute detail, as the work of Boulle is not only rare, but as you can imagine, incredibly valuable. When fully restored, this desk will be a sight to see.
Do you know, we are so lucky that houses like Boughton have survived over the years intact, because it gives us a fascinating insight into the social history of the upper echelons of society back in the 18th century. But when it comes to our industrial heritage, we're not always that keen to preserve it for future generations. Charlie Luxton has been to the Derbyshire Dales to check out what was one of the last vestiges of an almost forgotten side of the Industrial Revolution.
I have to say, this really is one of the most beautiful parts of Britain. And these woods just outside Matlock are especially magical. And today it's hard to believe that 200 years ago, this landscape would have looked completely different. Because believe it or not, this is where the Industrial Revolution really got going. The Matlock Valley is world-renowned as a birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. It was here in 1775 that the great industrialist Sir Richard Arkwright built his cotton milling empire. By using the ancient technology of the water wheel to power his newly invented cotton spinning machines, Arkwright not only revolutionised the cotton trade, he virtually invented the modern factory and with it, the mass production process. His machine was called the water frame, and it made Arkwright a very, very rich man. But there is a hidden side to this story, one of industrial espionage. Because just 1 mile from Arkwright's mill, a group of 18th century venture capitalists moved into a secluded valley and set up their own copycat version of Arkwright's mill. Until recently, these mills were overgrown, forgotten, and neglected. I want to find out who built these mysterious cotton mills and what role they had in Britain's Industrial Revolution. So, Julian, what is this building?
This was originally a cotton spinning mill.
OK, and when was it built?
It was built very, very early, 1785.
Who actually built it?
They were a company called Watts-Low and Company, venture capitalists, if you like.
So they were people being drawn to the area, into this kind of pot of gold that was being sort of created?
I think it was exactly that in the very early days, and it was a water-driven spinning process.
So the Watts and Low Company were muscling in on Arkwright's business, and they had a secret weapon, Mr. Low himself.
We think he probably worked for Arkwright. He certainly had knowledge of Arkwright's methods.
So he did the dirty?
He did the dirty, yes. He wanted a slice of the action himself.
Buoyed by their insider knowledge, these entrepreneurs set about building their empire right under Arkwright's nose. However, they had a problem. Arkwright's inventions were all securely patented. But like all successful entrepreneurs, they took a risk.
The people who built this mill, Watts-Low and Company, gambled on the fact that Arkwright was going to lose his patent rights and went ahead and built this mill.
So they were working on the premise that he would lose the protection he had over his process.
Yeah.
And they built all of this in the hope that he would.
Exactly.
Industrial espionage, insider trading, and a breach of patent. It's fair to say that if this were today's corporate climate, Watts and Low could expect a call from Arkwright's lawyers. But in the 18th century, Watts and Low felt secure in their hidden valley and gambled their futures by building their very own version of Arkwright's water frame. So this is kind of the heart of the
That is the wheel
machine.
pit from the water wheel, yeah.
Oh, lovely. So is this how deep it would have been originally?
No, it would have been much deeper than that. Your shoulders are at the level of the axle, and it would have been another 12 foot deep.
12 foot?
12 foot, yeah.
So massive, massive, massive timber metal wheel.
Yeah,
here.
massive wheel, yeah.
With their Arkwright-inspired mill, Watts and Low were in business. Using the waterfall as a power source and 200 people to work it, they ignored Arkwright's patent and set up shop. And how much of a copy is this from Arkwright's original?
Well, I'm guessing, but I suspect it was very close. I suspect it was actually a rip-off of Arkwright's machinery. It would have been industrial espionage, for want of a better word, that the local knowledge of these machines would have been worth a lot of money to the financial people.
It's a bit cheeky, isn't it?
It is a bit cheeky.
Watts and Low were saving themselves a huge amount of money by cutting Arkwright out of the loop. Leasing the rights to his water frame could cost up to £5,000 per annum, an extraordinary sum in the 18th century. In 1785, Richard Arkwright went to court to extend his patents once more, but this time the Crown was less amenable. Arkwright had a fight on his hands.
The arguments were that there were 10 processes in what he had brought forward with his water frame, and they could show that several of these, at least 7 of them, had been there before and were not new to him. I think the second problem was that he hadn't specified clearly what his patent was. So therefore, he could be more or less claiming anybody who was doing anything which was to do with powered spinning was infringing his patent.
Arkwright's machine involved 3 sets of paired rollers that turned at different speeds, pulling and stretching the raw cotton. While these rollers produced yarn of the correct thickness, a set of spindles twisted the fibres firmly together. The various processes involved many bits of machinery that had already been invented by others. Arkwright's genius was to put them all together for the first time, but claiming them all as his was a different matter.
So I think probably it would be fair to say greed with his patents. He managed to line up just about everybody else against him. And of course they go to court. And I think at the end, the prosecuting counsel pointed to him and said, "There stands the thief."
Arkwright finally lost the patent for his water frame in a landmark case in June 1785. His famous invention was now public property.
It then opened the gates to anyone to do this type of thing, and the state wanted this. They felt that he was blocking it, his patent was unreasonable, and he was really trying to stop the development of cotton spinning generally.
He gets it all going, but he's holding it back, and the moment that his grip on this industrial process is loosened,
that helps it. So that helps it a lot.
The Industrial Revolution was now underway. By 1788, water-driven mills started springing up all over Britain. And for Watts and Lowe in the Lumsdale Valley, trade blossomed. For 30 years, they spun cotton using the water frame design, free of the worry of being sued. But in 1813, their luck ran out and the company went bankrupt. Their water-powered mill finally met an opponent it couldn't beat: steam. It is quite incredible to think what this place was like in the late 18th, early 19th century. There would have been, 5 of these water wheels tumbling down this valley. I imagine there was no vegetation, no trees or plants. It would have been dirty, crowded, incredibly dangerous. And look at it now. Time is an incredible healer. I do know that this place didn't change the world like Cromford. I mean, that is where modern industrial process was born. But the revolution, now that really did take place here.
At Boughton House, my tour continues. There's so much to take in, from the rare and beautifully preserved French tapestries that hang in the staterooms, to the wonderful limewood staircase that would have once clattered with the footsteps of the staff who served this grand building. This place is a time capsule on a monumental scale. One of the marvellous things about Boughton House being stood unused for many years is the fact that it gives us a wonderful insight into how the occupants lived here and went about their day-to-day running of the place. Aspects of it that we wouldn't normally think about in a big country house. Now, they obviously had concerns about fire, especially being in the middle of nowhere. And the first Duke would have been 28 years old when the Great Fire of London in 1666 ravaged and destroyed the city. He would have seen that firsthand. He would have been concerned. Shortly after that, the first fire service was formed. So what we have here is one of the world's very first fire engines, designed by Londoner
Richard Newson in 1718. And the idea was this hand-pulled cart would literally be pulled to where the fire was, to the action. It would have been filled full of water in this chamber here, dragged up. These hoses would have been attached to this end here and then pointed at the flames. Then you'd have had 4 chaps, burly, strong chaps, to a side, holding onto these bars and pumping like crazy to jettison the water out in that direction. And when the chambers were running low, they would have been refilled by members of the staff, forming a line down to the pond or the lake, each with a leather bucket, passing it to the other one to refill these chambers. And I've just noticed, actually, I'm pleased the current Duke is also still concerned about fire issues. Look at that, we have a fire extinguisher there.
It's hardly surprising that successive dukes have wanted to protect this incredible building, which is as impressive as it is huge. Wing after wing, constructed of local Weldon stone, with nearly 2 acres of Collie Western slate covering the French-style mansard roofs. Boughton is a wonderful fusion of French and English architecture, and there's one part of the building that gives a unique insight into how the place would have been constructed. An unfinished wing where the builders downed tools over 300 years ago, leaving us a 3D blueprint of a 17th century stately home.
Gosh, look at that.
Fantastic, isn't it?
Oh, it's just wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. The bare fabric of the walls, the history these walls contained. Wow. Why was this never finished off?
Well, it's quite an interesting story, actually. It should have been the Duchess's quarters, but she never actually lived here. So she actually lived in a completely different house. This was never needed, so it got to this point and was completely stopped. So it's paused in history and time, really.
And there's another floor above there, isn't there?
Exactly, yes. It should have been a floor above us here, and then above there were actually rooms that were completed, servants' rooms, storerooms, etc. So all that was actually needed, whereas this part wasn't needed at all.
I hope that door's firmly bolted from the other side.
Oh, yes, very much firmly locked, yes. That leads up into the state apartments, but it's kept very firmly locked.
And there's a good example of the lead work. The drain pipes on the inside, built in.
That's right. Otherwise, you spoil the outside lines, and it's very important to have this architectural feature of the outside. So put them inside, hide them away.
I mean, we don't do that nowadays.
Well, they're all brilliant until, of course, they leak.
Well, yes. Yes.
As my time at Boughton draws to a close, I feel like I've barely scratched the surface of the wealth of history this house contains. And I have perhaps left the most important treasure till last, the music archive. In the 18th and early 19th centuries, Lady Elizabeth Montagu was an obsessive collector of music scores. Most of it has been boxed up and not seen for centuries. Music historian Paul Boucher is one of the team that has the enormous task of archiving the collection and has already unearthed some extraordinary musical finds.
Hi. Sorry to disturb your peace.
No. You're very welcome. I was just looking at this very ancient instruction book on how to play the lute.
Oh, lovely. What does this date to, this book?
1596.
Gosh. Did the dukes all play and entertain people and give recitals in the Great Hall?
Well, we're finding that out. We're piecing the history together with a lot of careful research. But yeah, they were a very, very musical family, and the first Duke had been ambassador to Louis XIV of Versailles.
So he was open to all the operas?
Absolutely, and the dance and the whole French culture, and he imported that back with him.
What's the biggest treasure you've come across here amongst the manuscript?
I think probably historically the most important is this innocent little volume, and it's in fact the first piece of music ever to be printed in this country.
What does this date back to?
1570. This is written for 4 voices to be sung without any accompaniment.
Oh, right.
By Lassus. and it's unique in the world. The only surviving copy of it. It has been used. You can see it's been written on.
Where did you find this one?
This was on a shelf in what's called the North Passage.
That's remarkable. That's absolutely remarkable.
It's a huge treasure. I hardly dare touch it. So that, I think, is possibly the greatest treasure.
But of course, studying the sheet music is one thing, listening to it is a whole different experience. And whenever Paul feels an important piece of music has come to light, he arranges for it to be played. Today, local harpsichordist Alex is going to play an arrangement of a very famous piece of music that has not been heard for over 200 years. What he's playing, let's go and find out. What's this piece called?
Well, this is the fireworks music
by
Handel. And there's this wonderful association, of course, with the second Duke, who commissioned the fireworks music and acted as go-between between Handel, the composer, and the king, who was very keen on having a lot of military instruments, and Handel was much more interested in having something much more refined and something which also could live on as a piece afterwards.
It's wonderful to think that this is how Handel would have been playing this.
Yeah, well, it's as near as we can probably get.
The sound is perfect. It's bringing those manuscripts to life, and that's the important thing.
Yes, exactly. That's the whole point of it. Otherwise, they're just dots on pages.
Lovely, absolutely lovely. What's it like playing a piece of Handel's music on this harpsichord?
It's very beautiful, and it's very lovely to play, and especially the privilege of being here to play from this score, which has sort of lain hidden for I don't know how long. Just to be able to open this and see the sorts of trends actually that were prevalent at the time in terms of home entertainment, I suppose.
It seems only appropriate to leave Boughton to the sound of music echoing around this extraordinary house, as it would have done over 250 years ago.
This country has a wealth of heritage. It is all around us. And more often than not, the deeper you dig, the more rewarding the treasure is. And with thousands of years of history under our belts, there's no end to the surprises that await us. See you soon.